We're taking a look at the letter Q today, and Q is for questioning. You may want to grab a coffee for this one. It's a lengthier bite size than normal, but I promise you it's well worth the watch. If you went to the same customer service or sales training academy as I did all those years ago, then you'll probably have been taught that there are 26 different question types and that he or she who asked the question is always in control because questions demand answers. Well, of course, we've learnt over time and through experience that there are in fact only two types of question, and that's the open and the closed question. Although there are many, probably far more than 26, question variations on the open and closed theme, a couple of which are worth a mention in today's bite-sized training session. It is still true, however, that he or she who asked the question is in control, because when you ask questions of your customer or prospect and you do so in a conversational rather than interrogational way, and you actively listen to the answers using those encouraging mouth noises and verbal nods to prove you've listened and understood, then you're far more likely to take the lead in a conversation, and your customer is far more likely to allow you to, because you've built that rapport and empathy and trust during the questioning stage. I could go on forever about artfully questioning your customer or prospect in order to take control and get in the driving seat of the conversation, but I'll focus today on just two really simple and easy questioning tips that I feel sure will help you get to the nub of your customer's inquiry or query and help you to better match back with a plan of action or solution or some information to satisfy your customer's need or requirement. First is the all-powerful defining question. To really appreciate its power, let's just have a quick recap of the theory around open and closed questions. We were taught that you ask open questions at the opening of the conversation to open up the customer or prospect, get more detailed information or a more expansive response or detailed answer, and you'd ask closed questions at the closing or close of the conversation to close in or close down the customer, gain commitment, test for agreement, get very specific or exact information or a one-word yes-no type of answer. Agreed? You may also have learned the little model that I was given to help me remember how open questions begin. I was taught the rugby post model, with the H standing for how, and then all the W questions along the goal bar, which represented the rugby players' bottoms. So the what, the why, when, where, who, and which questions. Remember that one? Or maybe you learned Rudyard Kipling's little rhyme. I had 6 serving men, they taught me all I knew. Their names were what and why and when and which and where and who. Although he missed the all-important how question, of course. All the theory around basic probing skills is fine, although as you and I know, what really matters is what works in practice. Because if you think about one of the most commonly asked questions, which can be asked in an open or closed way, that is, how are you, open question, versus are you okay, closed question, both the same question, but not necessarily getting you an answer that's by the book. So this clever little 1%er, the defining question, combines the power of the closed question, that is to get you very specific information, with the power of the open question, which is to get you a very detailed response, as well as ensure that conversational tone. The defining question can be pre-framed with an open or closed question, because what matters is the defining word that we use in the question. So here's how it works. When I first started my career working in telemarketing, my trainer told me that I should never ask a question that I didn't know the answer to. And I remember thinking at the time, how on earth am I going to know what every customer or prospect is going to answer? Because presumably they'll all be different. Their businesses will all be different, their staff challenges will all be different, because of course their staff will all be different. So how on earth would I know what each of them would say in answer to my questions? It wasn't until I became a trainer myself that I fully understood what my trainer meant. That is, decide on the answer you need and then design your question. That's really important. So I'm going to repeat that. Decide on the answer you need and then design your question. And that's where your defining question comes into play. You use a defining word that will encourage your customer to answer the question in the defined way that you've subliminally suggested. For example, asking someone what's happened is a good open question, but turning it into a defining question helps you get to the root of the situation much quicker and slicker. For example, can you explain exactly what has happened here? Open defined question. Or tell me, is there a specific reason for this happening? Closed defining question. Or when precisely did this happen? Open defined question. Or is there a particular time that's best for me to call back? Closed defining question. Can you hear all those defining words? Exactly, specific, precisely, in particular. You can also use normally, usually, realistically, generally, briefly, as in can you briefly talk me through what happened? Any word that subconsciously triggers the brain to answer in the way the defining word suggests, whether that be in a precise way or a general way or a particular way or a usual way, you get my drift. Remember too the power and purpose of using the TED principle to pre-frame your question so that you sound more conversational and less interrogational. TED stands for tell me or talk me through, explain, describe. And this little 1%er can certainly make a 100% difference to how the find out stage of a conversation flows. My second little questioning tip is the conditional question, traditionally used in sales to negotiate a win-win outcome, but equally powerful in customer service land when we need to get to agreement with our customer or prospect. The trick to using this questioning technique well is to ensure that you set the condition in place first before asking a question, and you ensure the condition talks about what your customer needs to do for you first and then what you are prepared to do for them if they comply with the condition. All too often we let the customer know what we're going to do for them first, and then we lose our ability to influence our customer acting on our instructions. So for example, we might say, I'll waive the late payment fee for you if you're able to settle your account and bring payments up to date by the end of this week, Mr. Customer. Is that okay with you? Yet a much more effective use of the conditional question is to let them know what you are going to do for them after they have done something for you. This 1%er follows the principle behind what you may have heard of known as the recency rule. That is, the customer will remember the last thing you said when both things are deemed as good news or acceptable to the customer. So we simply switch the condition around and ensure that we tell them what they need to do for us first and then what we're prepared to do for them second. It's another little bit of human psychology in play, and it'll definitely increase your chances of negotiating a win-win outcome with your customer. For more useful hints and tips on how your organisation can show up and stand out by delivering remarkable customer service so that you become what Seth Godin refers to as the purple cow in your field, sign up for our free 30-minute webinar, 7 ways to wow your customers. Just click the link below and I'll see you there. Until next time, take care and keep fit. Bye for now.